His head looks a little bit busy today. We haven't lunged him. He did get ridden yesterday, so this is his second ride in the bridle. His first ride in the bridle was yesterday, so he hasn't had any break in between. We're going to start with the same thing. His head looks a little busy, but he's basically just got the noseband and bridle on like he had. But we're in a bigger yard today, and if he was to get a fright and have a, some sort of major issue, I've left the halter on underneath and I've just tucked it into my belt. So if we had a major fright, I can grab hold of the halter lead and pull him around. Because he's, as we know, he's very used to the halter and the bosal, so just in case there's an issue, we got there as a backup. But it does look very busy on his head, but at the end of the day, it's just a noseband, a halter and a bridle. So he's real good with all of them. But yeah, no lunging or preparation, we're just kind of straight into it. Which is another reason I've left that lead on and I can pull it around. Very important if you do have a ride like this, that you make sure this is there in a way that it's just going to peel out of your belt. Because if you were perchance to fall off, you do not want this to get caught up for obvious reasons. Your horse is going to run away and drag you along behind it. So just a little bit of a loose rein walk. He's obviously been out in this arena before. Just let him have a quick look around. Because he kind of went through all this yesterday, we shouldn't have to spend quite as much time on it today. But we'll just quickly go through yielding his hind quarter out of the way, leading his front end out, either side. And he's a pretty cool horse, so I'm expecting he'll just pick up where he left off from yesterday. Oh. And again, this is why this isn't really a follow along how-to video. This horse is going really good. Some horses I would have, like on this day, I would have lunged before I got on, would have done some more groundwork, I would have checked him on the ground with the bridle before I got on. I'm sort of taking an educated guess, jumping on him, but I still kind of kept my panic handle here, just in case I was wrong. So like all these other days, we'll start off with that side pass. It's kind of melding into a leg yield there. Only real difference between a side pass and that leg yield movement is where his face is pointed. But like we've always said, each time we're slowly getting more particular and more critical of what he's doing and trying to make things neater and more correct. But second day in the bridle, he gets a little bit of latitude, especially at the start. And his side pass has been a little better in the bosal, but the reason it's a little finicky today is he's still fussing around with the bit while he's doing it. He's not completely accepting the fact that now he's got a bit on. And then with a bit on, I'm a little bit more inclined to trying to aim for that. Like this is correct flexion. He's bent to the right, moving to the right, and doing a nice job. So I'm a little bit more inclined when I go to the left to try and achieve that, because I've now got a bridle on and I can work on that. So some of his objections are coming from that too. But again, I'm not too fast just at this point whether he's perfect on it or not. But I'm just trying to encourage a more correct bend while he side passes. And that's always a sign he's a little frustrated. There we go. So he was a lot straighter that time, and he did get some left bend, which was cool. So we're just going to work on this direct bend to the left. Which is obviously going to help me with that flexion in the side pass later as well. Everything we do is kind of joined up and one kind of flows onto the other through our training program. The other thing we'd look for on that exercise and this one is some vertical flexion as well. Well, at his stage, I'm not worried about any of that. I just want the lateral flexion. And if I use both reins, it'll be just to stop him going forward, ask him to step over, stuff like that. When he has a really good understanding of it, I'd like him to bring his nose around but tuck it down as well. But at the moment, it's almost a one rein exercise. Trying to hold, push, release. Trying to be as soft as I can, but still get the job done. And I know some of you recognize that comment. You know, once you can do the job, see how little it takes to get the job done and keep it going. But at the same time, make sure you do what it takes to get the job done. So reins off your neck, inside leg. I want you to bend around and follow your nose. Reins on your neck, outside bend. Just want you to move your shoulders over. And again, we kind of know he knows this exercise, but there's a little bit of getting used to it in the bridle as well. And also, again, I can insist, or not insist really at this point, I can just encourage a little bit more outside bend. He kind of gets it done how he wants and he takes the bend that he prefers and avoids, you know, I'd like a little left bend there as he goes around, and he'll do it for a while and then he'll kind of, you know, jack up and have a little issue with it. And he can avoid that just a little bit in the hackamore, and it's harder for him to avoid in a snaffle. So like we said, sometimes you're going to get a little frustration on his part just because he can't quite cheat like he used to. Although it's obviously not cheating, it's just him being a little bit slack, picking the easiest way for him to do it. There we go. There. Whoa. And it's a funny thing when I talk to some people, you know, like I'd say, well, you know, the easiest way isn't how I want him to do it. And it's like, well, why not? Isn't that a good thing for him? You know, the easiest thing for me to do is sit on the couch and watch TV and drink beer. But that's not good for me. You know, like I got to work for a living and do things. And from a physical standpoint, if I get him doing all these exercises correctly, he is actually going to feel better. But also, like if you were training a human who was lazy, they're going to resist. They're going to go, oh, I don't want to do it because it's hard work. So you're going to hit some resistance, and just like you would a lazy human. But also, that lazy human, once they've stuck at it for a while and they get fitter and they feel the benefits of it, they enjoy it. And they enjoy going to work. And the same happens with your horse. Like I know sometimes I've had horses, you know, almost be a little, I suppose, resentful when I first start working them for people because their owners let them get away with stuff and I'm a bit more pushy. But then after a few weeks of that, they feel great, they move great, they feel better in themselves. I haven't overwhelmed them or overdone it at any point, and they really enjoy it. The same as we do when we exercise correct. So I kind of adopt the same philosophy. But also when you run down that line of thought, if you took a human and you made them do too much too soon, they just learn to hate that activity and never ever do it again. And horses are no different. Like if you go, well, you must do this. Like there's other things that we could do. We could tie his head down, we could bend it around here, and we could just force him to be where we want. And we may or may not get the result we want, but I almost guarantee the horse will hate it because we're doing too much too soon. Sometimes it's like, this might take longer, but when I get there, the horse is happy and I'm happy and they're softer and it all goes better. At the same time, I can't take forever and I can't be a pushover. He does have to know that he has to do it when he's asked, and I slowly get stricter. And again, it's very much like humans. Like a child goes to school for the first time, he plays with blocks and finger paints, and then they teach him to count a little bit, and then he goes back and plays with a Play-Doh. We don't treat him like he's in senior high school and he's got to do a whole bunch and he's got to be dedicated and concentrating and focus. It's a progression, and his education is going to be the same. It's going to start pretty loose and then gradually going to get more and more put on him and stricter as we go, and expectations lift higher and higher. And how fast or how slow you do that, it's kind of a matter of opinion amongst people. But I think it's also a matter of, you know, individual horses. You know, some are just going to get there faster and some are going to take a whole lot longer. So I'm holding my reins, I'm not pulling. So if he comes in far enough, he can make it soft. And just as I come around in front of the camera, you can see I'm kind of encouraging him to lift his shoulder up and out and flex to the left at the same time. And for a baby, like, he's done a circle or two, so I'm just going to give him a bit of free time. And in his case, when he gets free time, he can kind of do whatever he wants with his head. Again, as I feel he gets better and happier and softer and stronger and fitter, when I turn him loose, if he falls apart, I might just quietly put him back in. Turn him loose, he falls apart, I'll quietly put him back in. Until eventually he just stays there whether I'm asking him to work or not. Because this guy's so green and everything's still building, even if physically he wanted to do it, I'm happy for him to have a little mental break where he can kind of do whatever he wants, as long as he's soft when I pick him up again. So I asked him to keep his head down and just encouraged him to canter to see how that transition would go. Did a nice job. Steer, soften, release. I do that a little bit when I got steering issues, is kind of make a corner, get him soft, turn him loose. Make a corner, get him soft, turn him loose. He's doing this bit on his own. This is the bit that he doesn't want to turn. So that's the only corner I'm doing. Whoa. And it's interesting, I've had horses do that, like he lifted his head but he still didn't stick his nose out. He still stayed very soft in the rein when we did that stop. And if we back up a few rides, and I think we've got that on video, I got a little stricter about pushing him out and getting him to use more arena and pick himself up and go forward a little bit more. I'm still being a little conservative on that today because it is only his second ride in this bit. So this side, of course, he's showing like he doesn't want to bend this way as much. He's looking to the outside. So the transition might be a bit more difficult because he's wanting to push that shoulder over here. So I'm going to try and get him in position, but I may not be able to keep him there, and he may not just be willing and soft as he was on the right lead. But we'll just keep encouraging him and give him a go. Oh, it's pretty sweet. So I turned him loose because that half circle was really nice. Whoa. You will also see me use my legs a little bit on this guy now. And it looks like I'm doing it to make him go, but he goes to slow down, pushes into the bridle, hollows his back. So he's kind of collapsing, hollowing his back, and he's breaking stride because of that. And I'm putting my legs on and it kind of looks like I'm getting him to go, but I'm actually just wanting him to pick himself up. Because if he picks himself up, he can maintain that slower pace and just go a little softer. So we're already tying, you know, leg means lift your belly and steer, not just go forward. And on this side where he's not steering so well, is my outside leg is pushing his shoulder in and picking his belly up at the same time. So he's more flexible on this side, but he's kind of doing that bit on his own when it suits him. And we saw in that last set of circles, he was doing it down there. Mainly because that's the gate, that's where his friend is. You know, that's the horse magnet that's drawing him in that direction. So it's something he's just got to get through. So again, we're going to ask him to canter off, but there's no real pressure about it. I'm going to set him up, I'm going to ask him, I'm going to encourage him to stay in place, not trot out too much. I'm not going to hold him and say you have to canter now because I said canter now. That's just going to encourage him to take off nice and sweet, not be too worried about it. I don't want him thinking if I don't canter now, I'm going to get in a lot of trouble. At the same time, I'm not going to wait forever. Like, we've slapped him on the butt and done a few things to him too, because he was taking too long. He's tracking this circle a lot nicer this time. Whoa. I'm swapping my hands, in case you're wondering why I'm swapping my hands on that quirt. I'm swapping to the outside because if I was going to use it, I like it on the outside of the circle. I really don't expect with him I'm going to need it, but he is a little lazy, so I might have to say, hey, you need to go forward, and I might have to go back to using that. I do not want to attack him in the belly with my spurs if he's not going forward. I can encourage him a little there, but I can't get very tough with my hands there, with my legs there, sorry. So I'm not really offended if he takes a little jog on his own because he's a little bit casual. So again, a little unasked for effort. I don't really care too much. All right, we'll set him up. We'll see what we get. Nice. I'm also starting to hold my hands up a little bit when I frame him up, because this guy drops his nose and drops his neck a lot. That's wonderful, and I'd like him to have his head down, but I do want his shoulders up. So keeping my hands just a little higher, driving him a little stronger with my leg. I need him to pick that up. I need him to get his withers up. Head down, but withers up. I don't want him to just drop his head in the dirt. So I'm keeping my hands up, riding him a little stronger. Encourage a little bit more uphill. Come on. Whoa. So he was certainly looking for the stop, and I was too. Not so much I was worried about it, he'd done a good job. And I was just looking for a place where he's balanced in the middle, nice and soft, for me to ask him to stop. So again, for a baby, he's done a lot of cantering. It's on a nice sand arena. We're not knocking his joints around. It would certainly be a maximum that he'd be doing. And it's a little bit of a balancing act with him, because I don't want to overwork him, but he does need a bit of work ethic too. He's got a little bit of spoilt boy about him, so he's got to learn sometimes that, you know, it gets to that point that it's just a little difficult, and he's got to grit his teeth and keep going and, you know, not complain about it too much. But at the same time, I don't overdo that, make him run around and prove a point. Like, you know, like prove your point, leave him alone. Don't overdo it. And he'll get a little fitter. So again, we go back to that human. How do you get fitter? You know, if you can't run 5 kilometers, you don't try to do that the first day. You try to run 100 meters or 200 meters. And then the next day you might try to do a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and you slowly build up. If you try to give everything you can and run as much as you can and try to do that 5Ks on the first day and you're not used to it, you just get hurt and sore and hate running. So he's got to get to the edge of his comfort zone, and I've got to go just a tiny bit more for him to grow and get fitter and stronger. But he certainly had heaps today. And it's very hot and humid. You can see him sweating, but yeah, it's just the heat's not going anywhere today. But again, he's done a great job. It's only his second run in this snaffle bit. Didn't have to pull the panic handle. I'll probably leave that off tomorrow. All right, we'll stop him there. I'll just get a little side on. Which way is going to be best to the camera? There we go. So when I take the bridle off a young horse or even an old horse, like having the halter on underneath, and I'll do a separate bridling video, like how to put a bridle on and take it off. But sometimes in this position, like again, he's only on his second ride in this snaffle bit. Leaving the halter on underneath gives me a bit more control. So I'm going to take it off over his ears, and I'm going to grab hold of his forelock so that if he were to move around, it's easier for me to hold his forelock and go with him than me try to hold it out here in space. I've also got hold of the halter, and then I'm gradually going to let it out really slow, very slow, because we don't want him to bump his teeth. And even when it's out of his mouth, I still like him to stand there and be patient, just for a split second, and then take it off. Now again, this guy, we're not really expecting any problems, but I don't want to create any problems. You know, prevention's better than cure. If I took him cheap and he's really quiet and just took it off his ears and it smacked him on the teeth on the way out, all of a sudden my quiet horse might be chucking his head every time I take a bridle off, and I've got to work on that for the next 2 or 3 months. So I'd rather make sure it's really correct at this stage so that I don't have any problems going down the road. Anyway, cool. So what do we do to finish? Give him a rub, especially around the ears. They do love that. Give him a rub. He's doing the best he can with the person he got stuck with. And they do normally do that. Look, I gotta fix my hairdo now. All right, catch you on the next one. Cheers. G'day everyone. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I'd just like to highlight some ways that you can support the channel a little bit more that are completely free. Like the video, subscribe, please leave a comment whether you like it or you don't like it. Either comment's welcome. And that just supports the YouTube algorithm and helps the channel grow, which enables me to make more videos, more contact, and help more people. Thank you very much again, and keep watching. Cheers. Bye.